The relentless buzz of Alex's phone sliced through the midnight silence. Blue light flickered across our sleek Soho apartment, shards of artificial glow on polished surfaces. You ever get that feeling? Like your life's just a polished program? All smooth lines and clear code. But then something glitches beneath the surface, betrayal hidden deep in the data. Last Tuesday, in the faint echo of whispered Spanish, my whole world froze. Trust, deleted. Love, refactored. Cold air drifted under my skin as I realized the man I loved had quietly rewritten the script, but he didn't know I could read every line. How far would you go if you found out your partner was planning to delete you? This is where it begins. My name is Leah Morgan. At 35, I thought I had the perfect setup. 7 years married, a stunning Soho loft, millions locked into Alex's booming AI firm. But last week, I caught a secret. Alex, in hushed tones with his co-founder, plotting to push me out, drain our accounts. What he didn't know, I speak fluent Spanish. His empire about to implode. Before everything cracked, I was living the so-called American dream. Stanford grad with a master's in data science, a startup strategist carving a niche in Brooklyn's tech scene. Sharp, independent. I had my life fully mapped out, and I loved that control. Then came Alex Rivera. I met him 8 years ago at a tech conference in San Francisco. I was pitching for a client. He was showcasing Tech Vista, a scrappy AI startup with big ideas. Our eyes met across the crowded space, electric. Alex was 38, tall, with eyes that seemed to pierce through algorithms straight to the core. His charm, magnetic. Raised by Mexican immigrants, he carried that fire, a mix of fierce ambition and effortless charisma that pulled people in. When he spoke of transforming industries with AI, his passion lit up the room. I stayed behind his booth long after my schedule said I should have left. We swapped business cards. He called me the very next day. But underneath his smooth words was a calculation I never saw coming. A plan to own everything I worked for. Someone who threatened by my sharp mind. The man who once promised forever was ready to erase me. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about reclaiming power. About tearing down a facade built on lies. Watch as I decode every move, expose the fraud, and take back what's mine. Because no one hacks me without consequences. Not in my city. Not in my life. Our first date was at a cozy spot in the Mission District. The air smelled faintly of rain and roasted coffee beans, the city muffled beneath the soft hum of jazz. Alex ordered for both of us, in flawless Spanish. His ease with the language wasn't just impressive. It felt like a window into a world I wanted to explore. That night, with the clatter of glasses fading, we talked relentlessly. Markets, algorithms, our favorite books. Ideas bounced between us, sharp and electric. It was rare, intellectual chemistry that filled the space between us with promise. Our whirlwind courtship carried that energy forward. Weekend escapes to wine country. Late-night debates about AI ethics, dreams of reshaping the industry. I felt seen, like someone finally understood the pulse of my mind and heart. 6 months in, Alex proposed on the San Francisco Bay during a fiery sunset. The ring, an emerald from his grandmother, encircled in diamonds. It felt timeless. Our wedding in Napa was pure glamour. 300 guests from Brooklyn Tech District's elite. A Vera Wang dress that felt like armor. Alex in a tux tailored perfectly. Vows exchanged under wide blue skies. I believed we were unstoppable. Tech Vista was still scrappy. Brilliant ideas, but strapped for cash. Alex funded it through tight investor rounds and his own savings. After long, sleepless nights discussing the future, I made a pivotal choice. I invested $2 million of my inheritance and savings into Tech Vista. It was most of what I had, but I believed in him, in us. I thought that meant partnership, because with that stake I expected a voice, a seat at the table, a future built on trust. But trust takes more than money. One night, in the quiet glow of my home office, I went back through those financial statements. The hum of the city outside dimmed, replaced by the steady tapping of my fingers on the keyboard. Screens cast blue light onto the walls. Lines of code flickered, embedded where there should be only numbers. Then it happened. A single line item pulsed, a hidden transfer to Morgan Holdings. A chill ran through me. Morgan, that's my maiden name. Only Alex knew that detail. Only him could have masked this betrayal from the start. Suddenly, everything clicked. This wasn't a mistake. It was a plan. Concealed before vows, hidden beneath all the love I believed in. How deep did the deception go? How long had the script been rewritten behind my back? This wasn't just about money. It was about control. Ownership of everything I worked for. Erasing me from a future I fought so hard to build. The man I trusted, the man who vowed forever, had mapped out my downfall long before I walked down the aisle. And now I had to decode it all. Every lie, every hidden line, every shadow in the ledger, because no one hacks my life with impunity. Not in my city, not in my world, not to me. It's time to expose the fraud, to reclaim what's mine, to prove that resilience and intelligence are the ultimate power. This isn't surrender, it's uprising. It's victory, written in code and courage, and I'm just getting started. The echo of laughter lingers in the sleek dining room filled with amber light. The rain taps softly against the floor-to-ceiling windows, bringing a cool, earthy scent that cuts through the warmth inside. Leah Morgan sits still, her fingers resting on the polished oak table, eyes locked on her laptop screen. She stares at one number, a huge expense listed under TechVista's accounts. Too big, too hidden. Something doesn't add up. Suddenly, a voice breaks the quiet. From the hallway, Alex Rivera's tone is tense, almost urgent. Leah's heart skips. Was this elegant Soho loft their sanctuary, or a cleverly masked trap? The line between trust and betrayal blurs. How deep does the deception run? She wants answers but fears what she'll uncover. Should she confront him, or let the secret stay buried? When the cash flowed in, Leah and Alex bought a sprawling Victorian in Soho, 4,000 square feet with sweeping views of the city skyline. It cost $3.5 million, but with TechVista hitting its stride, it felt like the right move. Months passed renovating every room into a showcase of modern design and worldly taste. Leah still remembers the excitement, the soft rustle of freshly polished curtains, the faint scent of cedar wood, the buzz of possibility. They traveled the world. Maldives sunsets painting their skin gold. Quiet mornings in Tuscany with cups of espresso, the leaf rustling in nearby olive groves. Temples in Kyoto, serene and timeless. Leah's role shifted too. She left her startup strategist gigs to become TechVista's CFO. Alex, the visionary coder and co-founder, handled product and innovation. Together, they were a power couple. A perfect code, logical, balanced, strong. Their bond felt real. Alex remembered every detail, her favorite coffee, the playlist she made for late-night crunches, the way she liked her meetings, direct and data-driven. Conflicts were settled over coffee and compromises, never harsh words. On their 5th anniversary, he whisked her away to New York. Broadway shows, fine dining, lights that never dimmed. It was life unfolding like a beautifully written program. TechVista thrived under their command. Valued now at $50 million, investors buzzed with confidence, and Leah felt she'd finally found balance. Power shared equally, dreams realized. But beneath the polished surface, the code was quietly rewriting itself. Alex's charm, his charisma, had a darker algorithm. Could love and trust survive when the numbers hide secrets? Leah's next move would change everything. Would she unravel the truth or watch her world collapse? We had offices in San Francisco, Boston, and Austin, Over 100 sharp minds building tech that Fortune 500 companies depended on. Our software was the backbone of data analysis and business intelligence. The media started calling Alex Rivera a tech prodigy. Investors scrambled to get a piece of our company. When we hit a $50 million valuation, we threw a massive party for our team and backers. Standing beside Alex as he gave his speech, thanking everyone for their part, I felt a rush of pride. He raised his glass to my brilliant wife, without whom none of this would be possible. The applause was loud, and I believed every word. Our Soho home turned into the epicenter for investor dinners and networking shindigs. I played the perfect hostess, blending charm and strategy. We were the power couple in Brooklyn's tech scene, Alex the visionary coder, me the numbers-driven CFO. Life was flawless. Career, on point. Husband, loving. Future, bright. But beneath all that polish, something was cracking. About 6 months ago, Alex's schedule started shifting. Board meetings running overtime, client dinners stretching late, weekend work sprints. Nothing obvious, just a trail of tiny changes that slowly shut me out. More closed-door calls. Phone hangs the moment I enter his office. The warmth faded, replaced by walls that weren't there before. Then the night of the celebration. The clinking glasses faded as I caught a quick look between Alex and a shadowy figure near the balcony. Someone I didn't recognize, but who seemed way too familiar with him. Laughter swelled around us, but I sensed something different. Then I saw it, a flicker of panic in Alex's eyes as he slipped his phone into his pocket. What secret had just appeared? What did he discover that cracked his calm? The party pulsed with life, but a chill ran through me. Was this the moment everything would unravel? How deep did the deception really go? Leah Morgan noticed the shift first in the small details. Alex installed a new passcode on his work laptop, something he'd never done before. When she asked, he brushed it off. New contracts, tighter security. But Leah sensed more. Around that time, Miguel Fuentes showed up, an entrepreneur with ties across Latin America. Alex introduced him as a partner for expanding their AI firm into those markets. Miguel had that effortless charisma, expensive tastes, and a Rolodex that made even seasoned investors nod in approval. Miguel wasn't alone. Gabriela Suarez, a striking marketing exec, appeared at every function, always perfectly polished, always close to Alex. Leah caught how Gabriela's hand would linger on his arm, how her laughter hung a beat too long after his jokes. Their Soho loft felt different. Conversations shifted into hushed Spanish when Leah was near. She could understand every word. Years studying abroad, fluency in Spanish, but Alex never suspected she was listening. One night after dinner, Leah caught them, Alex and Miguel, hunched over the kitchen table, voices low, laughter masked by secrets. The air held the scent of spilled Cabernet and something unsaid. Miguel glanced at Leah with an urgency she couldn't read. Then his phone buzzed. Alex shot a warning look, then slipped away. What were they plotting out of her sight? What lines had been crossed behind closed doors? Leah's gut tightened. This wasn't just business anymore. It was war. Alex's charm masked a cunning that now threatened her world. But Leah was no victim. Analytical, resourceful, resilient. She wasn't about to let betrayal bankrupt her. The question was, how deep did Alex's deception run? And could she untangle the web without losing everything she'd fought for? The next move might decide it all. Would Leah expose the fraud, reclaim control, or would she become another casualty in the game Alex was playing? The clock was ticking. The glow of Leah's laptop cut through the growing dusk in their Soho loft, casting sharp light on rows of financial spreadsheets. Alex's voice echoed from the next room, meant to sound calm, almost reassuring, but underneath it carried a sting, a quiet push away. We're expanding into Latin America. That's why these private talks in Spanish. He said it like it was normal, routine. But Leah felt the weight of the silence that followed. The air smelled faintly of rain, a cold sharpness creeping in through the cracked window. Why was she suddenly locked out? Why was she no longer part of plans they once built together? Her pulse quickened as she scrolled through transactions, numbers that twisted into lies. The quiet clicks of her keyboard seemed louder, heavier. If Alex trusted her, why keep her in the dark? What secrets had he buried behind that charming smile? Leah's mind raced. What wasn't he telling her? Alex had smoothly shifted the narrative, pushing her aside. Focus on our current operations. That was his line now. While he and Miguel, that newly minted partner with expensive taste, plotted the expansion, Leah was exiled from the big picture. On paper, the split sounded fair, but in reality, it felt like a takeover, fast and silent. Every question she raised was met with a cool deflection. When she pushed for transparency, Alex shrugged it off. "Trying to spare you the stress," he said. But Leah knew better. The tension in the loft thickened like fog. Financial control became the new battlefield. Alex, once easygoing with money, suddenly obsessed over every expense, fueling small, sharp arguments that cut deeper than just dollars and cents. He delayed home renovations they'd planned for months, claiming the business needed cash. But how could she believe his sudden thrift when lavish dinners and late-night meetings with Gabriella and Miguel kept stacking up? Leah found herself arguing over hiring a financial analyst she needed. "We can't afford it now," he insisted. When she questioned his frequent mysterious trips to Miami and Mexico City, his defenses rose like walls. "You're not supporting growth," he accused, his words cold and accusatory. Leah's gut clenched when she saw the texts on his phone, late at night from Gabriella. The messages were cryptic, urgent. "Can't wait to finalize everything," one read. "It will be worth all the secrecy." Secrets whispered beneath the surface. A world Leah had no part of, yet stood to lose everything too. How deep did this web run? Who was Alex really working for? The questions multiplied, each one more dangerous than the last. Leah knew this wasn't just business or betrayal, it was a fight for her future. She closed her laptop slowly. The soft rustle of the screen folding echoed in the heavy air. Outside, rain began to tap against the window, each drop a relentless reminder. Time was running out. Would she expose the truth and reclaim control? Or would Alex's scheme bankrupt not just their business, but her trust, her identity? Leah took a deep breath. One thing was certain. She wasn't disappearing quietly. Leah sat at the edge of her bed. Her phone was still warm from its last buzz. Outside, jagged headlights sliced through the blinds. Alex hummed in the kitchen. Too casual. Too rehearsed. The air felt thick with something unspoken. Her heart pounded. Her mind raced through half-formed thoughts. Lisa's last message blinked on the screen. Unread. Trust your instincts. Was Alex hiding something? Or was she unraveling in the dark? The silence suddenly felt loud, heavy, like the space before a storm breaks. Leah had first noticed the cracks weeks ago. When she casually mentioned seeing a text from Gabriella, Alex spun a story about a surprise product launch and quickly turned the conversation. She tried to convince herself it was just the stress of the expansion, a necessary secrecy for growth. But the late nights kept stacking up, and so did the excuses. She shared some worries with Lisa, careful not to sound paranoid. Lisa had been in their corner since before the wedding. Even she sensed it. Alex distracted, checking his phone obsessively during their last dinner, unable to stay present. "Maybe you should just talk to him," Lisa said gently, but Leah hesitated. What if she opened a door she couldn't close? Despite the growing distance, Leah kept her calm. She watched. She gathered. She masked her doubts beneath a normal smile. At home, the change was undeniable. The warmth between them was cooling. Alex retreated from touches that once felt natural. Their intimate moments faded. His exhaustion was always work. Morning coffees by the window, gone. Weekend brunches, replaced by work meetings and sudden trips to the office. Leah felt invisible in her own life, a stranger looking in through a pane of fogged glass. She, the woman who managed million-dollar portfolios with confidence, was beginning to question everything. Her judgment, her marriage, even herself. Was she reading too much into things? Or was this the bitter cost of mixing business with personal trust? The questions haunted her. She closed her laptop slowly, the soft rustle sharp in the quiet room. Rain began tapping against the window pane. Each drop a steady countdown. Could she expose the truth before it destroyed everything? Before Alex drained more than just their bank accounts? Leah clenched her fists. One thing was clear. She wasn't fading away quietly. Tonight, the fight for her future was just beginning. Or was something more sinister unfolding right before my eyes? The night that changed everything started innocently enough. Carlos had arranged a dinner party at our home for Miguel and several potential investors from Mexico City. I spent the day preparing, ordering, catering from an upscale restaurant and arranging fresh flower displays throughout the house. I wanted everything to be perfect, perhaps subconsciously hoping that a successful evening would restore some normalcy to our increasingly strained relationship. I wore a navy blue dress that Carlos had once complimented, styled my hair in loose waves, and applied makeup carefully. Part of me was still trying to recapture the connection we seemed to be losing, though another part was growing increasingly suspicious of his behavior. Guests began arriving at 7. Miguel was among the first, accompanied by Gabriela, who wore a fitted red dress that drew every eye in the room. She air-kissed my cheeks, and greeting her perfume lingering in the space between us. "Eden, thank you for opening your beautiful home to us," she said with a smile that never quite reached her eyes. Throughout the evening, I played the role of perfect hostess, refilling wine glasses and facilitating conversations while carefully observing the dynamics around me. Carlos and Miguel frequently separated themselves from the main group, huddling in corners for hushed conversations that stopped abruptly when others approached. Gabriela remained close to Carlos, touching his arm when she laughed, leaning in unnecessarily close when speaking to him. I felt like an outsider in my own home, watching a performance where everyone knew their lines except me. The investors from Mexico City seemed impressed with whatever Carlos and Miguel were proposing, nodding enthusiastically during their presentations and exchanging knowing glances. By 11, most guests had departed, leaving only Miguel and Gabriela, lingering over digestives in the living room. The dim blue glow from Alex's monitor flickered across his weary face. He leaned in, voice low but sharp. "She'll never trace the offshore account unless I reset the VPN." Miguel replied quickly, switching to English mid-sentence. "But she's getting suspicious." A cold wave crashed over me. This wasn't just business talk. It was a plan. Against me. My breath caught, palms slick on the wooden railing. Rain tapped softly on the window outside, mixing with the rustle of dry leaves underfoot. The world shifted beneath me. Betrayal settled deep in my bones. How long had this been going on? How blind was I to the man I thought I knew? Alex's voice cut through the silence. "Once this is done, all the money's untouchable. She trusts me. She won't see it coming." Miguel nodded, confidence in every word. They spoke numbers, millions siphoned away from what I built with my own hands. 12 million. Vanished. No trace, no warning. I stepped back quietly, heart pounding as a storm raged inside. The night air was thick with tension as I stood motionless. Everything I had fought for, my independence, my vision, was crumbling beneath their deceit. But I refused to be a victim. The question echoed louder than ever. How do you fight the ones you love when they're the very ones pulling the strings? Days later, I sat in the light of my Brooklyn apartment, laptop humming softly. I traced every digital thread, every offshore account. Tech was my weapon now, their web of lies unraveling piece by piece. I wasn't just exposing fraud, I was reclaiming my power. I would dismantle their scheme, rebuild my life on truth, and redefine what strength really meant. Because in this game, resilience beats deception, and no shadow, no matter how dark, can hide a spark determined to ignite. Leah Morgan stood just beyond the glass office, her breath shallow. Inside, low voices blended with a muffled laugh, the soft scrape of papers, the unmistakable clink of whiskey tumblers. The dim hum of Alex Rivera's computer monitor flickered like a beacon of dread. Rain tapped rhythmically against the window pane, heavy with the scent of wet concrete and fading autumn leaves. Each sound felt amplified, a soundtrack to the unraveling of her world. Suddenly, a phone buzz shattered the conspiracy. Gabriella's voice sliced through the tension. Calm, clear, unyielding. "Leah, you need to know," she said. A warning, not an ally of Alex's, but a lifeline. Hope, sharp and bitter, surged through Leah's veins. She wasn't alone in this. The betrayal was tangled deeper than she imagined. Inside that room, plans were being made. Alex and Miguel's voices leaked through the crack, cold, calculating. "When she returns, everything will be finalized," Alex whispered. "Her shares will be worthless. The company's valuation will tank after those accounting irregularities come to light." Miguel smirked. Gabriella's playing her part perfectly. Leah's heart sank deeper. The penthouse in Miami, already under Gabriella's name. Coup de grace. They schemed to frame Leah for financial misconduct, for incompetence, a meticulously orchestrated takeover built on lies and stolen trust. She pressed her hand against the wall, steadying a body rocking with shock. 7 years of marriage. $2 million of her own money poured into Tech Vista. Every sleepless night, every pitch, every victory, about to vanish like smoke. The betrayal was visceral. Her chest tightened so fiercely breathing felt impossible. Vision blurred, darkness threatening at the edges. Sweat cooled her forehead even as chills raced down her spine. This wasn't just heartbreak, it was annihilation. Backing away silently, Leah slipped upstairs before they could sense her presence. In the sanctuary of their bedroom, she bolted the door, letting the tears fall. Soft, muffled sobs pressed into her pillow so no one would hear. In that quiet solitude, her mind rewound the past 6 months. Every furtive glance, every secret call, every absence now a red flag. Yet Leah's story wouldn't end crushed under the weight of deceit. Days later, fueled by raw determination, she sat before her laptop in the Brooklyn Tech District. The glow of the screen was a promise. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, unraveling the digital maze Alex and Miguel scrambled to hide. Offshore accounts, shell companies, forged signatures, each piece exposed with surgical precision. This was no longer just a battle for money. It was a crusade for dignity, for control, for the truth. Alex thought he could bury her under lies and shadows, but Leah Morgan was relentless. She was brilliant, resilient, and ready to redefine the rules. Could she reclaim what was stolen? Could one woman, armed with wit and grit, dismantle a fortress of betrayal? The night stretched endlessly, but inside, a storm of resolve burned brighter than ever, because no matter how deep the darkness, one spark could ignite a revolution. And Leah was just getting started. The memory hit me like the sharp bite of bitter espresso and the soft hum of the server rack humming quietly in the corner. It was the day Tech Vista launched its first product. Alex leaned in close, voice low and sure. "We'll change the industry together." His hand was warm, steady on my palm. Trust felt real then, weighty like the cold metal of my wedding band. But now, his smile twisted in my mind, leaving a metallic tang in my mouth, sharp, cold, the taste of betrayal cutting through every hopeful moment I'd held on to. The pieces snapped into place with brutal clarity. Alex had planned this, methodically, silently, from the moment Miguel stepped into our lives. All those years, my family inheritance, personal savings from grinding long nights as a startup strategist, gone. Our home, bought on promises of partnership and future dreams. And every employee, utterly unaware they were caught in his web. Hours passed. The shock faded, replaced by a chill fury settling deep in my bones. Alex saw me as the supportive wife, the predictable player in his game, but he never knew what I could do when the ground shifted beneath me. By dawn, I'd cried my fill. My eyes stung, my throat raw. But my mind sliced through the haze. Alex made one fatal error. He forgot I understood every word of his whispered Spanish with Miguel. That slip was his undoing. I heard him stirring in the guest room, still oblivious to the storm brewing next door. Soon he'd play the role of the loving husband before slipping away, counting down the hours until he could finish what he'd started. I splashed cold water on my face, erased traces of my sleepless night with precise strokes of makeup, and readied myself. This wasn't just survival. It was a show, my best performance yet. He walked in at 7:30, fresh from the shower, dressed in the charcoal suit I'd gifted him on his birthday. That smile, warm, practiced, he sat beside me on the bed. But this time, the game had flipped. Alex thought sending me away meant victory. Instead, he handed me the chance to expose every lie, reclaim what was mine, and to rise. Could one woman, armed with resilience and sharp wit, dismantle a fortress built on deceit? I was about to find out. "Good morning, beautiful," he said, leaning down to kiss my forehead. "I've got some exciting news. The Paris office needs someone senior to review operations next week. Thought you'd like to spend a few days there." I widened my eyes, forcing a smile. "Paris? That sounds amazing. How long?" "About a week," he said, scrolling through his phone. "The company apartment is free. You love the left bank in spring." I touched his arm, though my skin crawled. "That's really thoughtful. I'll start packing today." Alex smiled, completely blind to the truth I held. I'd heard every word of his secret plan. "I have meetings all day, but dinner's on me tonight," he said, standing up. "Love you." "Love you too," I murmured, words bitter as ash. The door clicked shut behind him. I froze for a beat, then moved fast. First, I called Sophia Reynolds, my college roommate and now a top corporate lawyer in San Francisco. "Sophia, I need you. It's urgent." "Where?" she asked, sharp and immediate. "My place. An hour. Private elevator from the garage." "Is everything okay?" "No," I said, already throwing on a jacket. "But it will be." Before leaving, I scanned our home office for anything Alex left behind. He was careful, too careful, but I had to try. In his desk drawer, I found a key I'd never seen before. A rush of adrenaline hit. On a gamble, I tried it on the safe hidden behind the painting. I'd always known it was there, but never dared open it. The lock clicked, and everything I thought I knew ripped wide open. I stood motionless for a split second. The silence of the apartment pressed in, thick and heavy against the fading scent of his expensive cologne. My chest tightened, adrenaline humming beneath my skin. Time wasn't just ticking, it was weaponized now. I grabbed my encrypted laptop and slipped into my workspace, heart pounding. What exactly did Alex think would happen in Paris? The sharp scent of cedar mixed with printer ink hit Leah Morgan like a punch. It pulled her back, years before Alex Rivera changed, before the betrayals, the late-night whispers, the cold distance. She saw him laughing in their Soho office, the glow of dual monitors painting his face. That familiar warmth, his hand steady as they signed the first contracts for Tech Vista, their AI firm dream. That signature, once a promise, now a dagger. Black ink inked trust. Twisted into lies and forged documents. How did it all turn so dark? Inside the hidden safe, Leah found it. files for Meridian Holdings tucked away in Panama, documents with her signature but not hers, authorizing the theft of TechVista's secrets. Heart pounding, she snapped photos, careful to leave everything untouched. There was no turning back. Meeting Sophia Reynolds, her sharp college friend and top San Francisco corporate lawyer, Leah laid it all out. Changes in Alex, the mysterious Miguel and Gabriella, the overheard conversations. Sophia's face tightened. Leah, this is massive fraud, corporate theft, identity theft. This isn't just numbers, this is war. Her voice was low, urgent. We have to move fast and smart. Leah felt a spark, a return of control. She wasn't alone. She had a plan. Next call, Vincent Parker, TechVista's COO. Leah trusted him. Over coffee in a quiet Brooklyn cafe, she dropped the bombshell. Vincent's eyes went wide. Alex cut you out of meetings. I noticed, but thought it was politics. Miguel? He gave me chills, too. Together, they dove into the financial records on Vincent's laptop. Code, transfers, cutouts, every line a piece of the puzzle Alex was trying to bury. The stakes were high. Time was no longer just passing. It was their weapon. And Leah was ready to fight, not just for TechVista, but for herself. Over the past 6 months, strange things started showing up in the books. Millions funneled as consulting fees to shadowy companies no one could identify. Huge expenses flagged as business development. But the details were sketchy, vague. Transfers to new subsidiaries buried behind confusing names. Vincent pointed to a trail leading to Panama and the Cayman Islands. Shell companies, he said, voice low. They've probably moved close to $4 million already. My throat tightened. This wasn't just corporate sabotage. This was a covert siphoning that could bleed TechVista dry. Back at Sophia's office, the glow of her laptop illuminated endless spreadsheets and legal drafts. We worked through the night, piecing together a case for an emergency board meeting. Legal motions drafted to freeze assets, if things got worse. Sophia's eyes locked on me. What about your personal accounts? If Alex has access, you need to lock those down now. Morning light spilled across my desk as I opened new accounts at a bank far from Soho. Fingers trembling, I transferred every dollar I could, cutting off Alex's access. I was fortunate. I'd safeguarded some investments in my name alone, my silent shield. Next, I had to rally the board. TechVista's 7-member team was split, with Alex holding sway as co-founder. To stop him, I needed allies. First stop, Janet Wilson, a venture capitalist and one of our earliest backers, always a quiet believer in me. Over lunch at her private club, I laid out the evidence. The shell companies, the forged documents. Her eyes betrayed disbelief. I thought you two were unstoppable, but these numbers don't lie. She nodded firmly. Count me in. This wasn't just a fight for a company. It was for every late night, every blurred line between trust and betrayal, every moment that made me question what or who I thought I knew. A shaft of morning light cut across my untouched new account documents when my phone buzzed. Sophia's voice was tight and urgent. Leah, your personal funds. There's already a withdrawal flagged in Zurich. The scent of damp paper and rain outside blurred as ice ran down my spine. Alex's reach wasn't local. It was international. He'd moved faster than I imagined. This was no longer just about shell companies hidden in Panama. It was a race against an unseen adversary wired straight into the global financial web. How deep did this go? Who else was involved? And could I stop Alex before he vanished with everything I'd fought for? Heart hammering, I squared my shoulders. This was no longer just business. This was personal. It was a war for control, for truth, and for reclaiming my future. One move at a time. Leah sat by the kitchen window, the sharp scent of morning coffee swirling around her. Soft light caught the gold in Alex's wedding band as he laughed. Light, easy, real, or so she thought. That moment replayed in her mind like a broken record. The warmth she once felt, trust humming quietly beneath every word. But now, the photo resting on her desk shattered it all. The clink of his spoon against the porcelain cup, once a comfort, echoed hollow in her head. Betrayal isn't loud. It's quiet, relentless. A slow burn that sharpens a person into steel. She clenched her jaw. How had she missed the cracks? The lies? And what would it take everything back? One by one, Leah met with board members. She gave just enough truth to win their trust, but not enough to alert Alex. By Sunday night, she held 4 of 7 votes needed to oust him as CEO. At the same time, she hired a private investigator to track Alex and Gabriella. Within 2 days, she had photos that cut deeper than words. Alex slipping into an apartment in Soho with Gabriella. The affair wasn't just whispers anymore. It was real, raw, unforgivable. The pain stabbed sharp but lit a fire, and this was no longer about money or titles. This was about justice, about refusing to let Alex benefit from his lies. At home, Leah played the part of the unsuspecting wife like a pro. She packed a suitcase for Paris. Restaurant reservations booked, smiles practiced, affection faked. Every quiet dinner was a high-stakes act of control. She shed pounds, lost sleep, each night a battle against exhaustion and anxiety. Yet beneath it all, something shifted. Leah wasn't just surviving. She was taking back her life, brick by brick. Monday night, the last night before her planned trip, Alex took her to Gary Denko, the place of their first anniversary. He ordered champagne, toasted to their future. He slid a platinum bracelet across the table. "A gift," he said, "to remember me by." Leah took it, polite, steady, knowing in his eyes it was no love token. It was a payoff. The last piece before the fall. She felt the bitter irony settle deep. "I'll miss you," he said, reaching for her hand. But she wasn't the same woman sitting there anymore. Not by a long shot. "It's going to be a hectic week, but I'll be counting down the days till you're back." I smiled, squeezing his hand. There was a weight behind my words. He didn't know it yet, but everything was about to change. Alex raised his glass again. "I believe you're right." That night, lying beside him for the last time, I stared at the ceiling and asked myself, how did the man I trusted become so cold? Was any of his love real? Or was I just a part of the game he played to climb higher? No answers came. What mattered now was the road ahead, the life I'd build from the rubble. As Alex drifted to sleep, I made a silent vow. Tomorrow marked the turning point. In the early hours, everything slid into place. Vincent confirmed the emergency board meeting was set for 2 p.m., the exact moment Alex and Miguel planned to sign the papers giving Alex full control. Sophia had the legal docs ready. The forensic accountant found the money trail and pinpointed the accounts to freeze. The plan was locked in. Alex thought he was sending me away to Paris, closing the door on me. But he was about to face the storm he never saw coming. Tuesday morning arrived quiet and calm. I packed clothes I would never wear in Paris, carefully chosen instead for the boardroom battle ahead. Alex lingered in the doorway, glancing at his watch. His impatience hung thick in the air. "Got your passport?" he asked, barely hiding his eagerness to get me out of the way. But I wasn't going anywhere, not without fighting back. He asked, his concern for my travel preparations, a perfect mask for his true intentions. "Right here," I replied, patting my handbag while maintaining my own facade of excited traveler. "And all my travel documents are loaded on my phone." Carlos loaded my luggage into his Audi, chatting about Parisian cafes and suggesting neighborhoods I should explore during my free time. The performance was flawless down to his reminders about the time difference for our calls. He had clearly rehearsed this moment, this sending off of a wife who would return to find her life in ruins. The drive to San Francisco International Airport was filled with mundane conversation. Carlos asked about my meetings in Paris. offering suggestions for presenting our financial models to the French team. I nodded and took notes, playing along with this elaborate charade, even as my heart pounded with anticipation of what was to come. At the departures terminal, Carlos pulled to the curb and stepped out to retrieve my luggage. He embraced me tightly, kissing me with what appeared to be genuine affection. "Have a safe flight, my love. Call me when you land." "I will," I promised, returning his kiss. "Good luck with your meetings this week." A flash of something crossed his face at my words, perhaps a moment of guilt or hesitation, but it vanished quickly. He waited until I entered the terminal before driving away, undoubtedly already calling Miguel to confirm that Phase 1 of their plan was complete. What Carlos did not know was that Sophia was waiting for me just inside. The moment he drove away, I turned and walked toward the airport parking garage rather than the security checkpoint. I had no intention of boarding any flight today. "He bought it completely," I told Sophia as we walked briskly to her car. "He thinks I am safely out of the way." "Perfect," she replied. Vincent just texted. "Carlos returned directly to the office and is meeting with Miguel now. They have no idea what is coming." Leah Morgan's fingers traced the rough edges of an old ceramic mug, the kind that bites into your skin. It was a gift from Alex Rivera, Christmas before everything fell apart. The sour burn of stale coffee filled the room. For a flicker, his laughter echoed in her mind, warm and careless. That day, she believed every word, every promise. Now, the same mug sat cold on her tech command center desk, a bitter monument to deceit. The weight of betrayal pressed on her chest like a storm gathering, each photo on her screen a silent accusation. Alex, arm wrapped around Gabriella, grinning like he owned everything Leah had worked for. How had she missed every sign? How deep did his lies really run? The rain tapped softly against the window. The faint rustle of leaves outside barely cut through the heavy silence. Every distraction chipped away at her focus, but Leah clung to one truth. This wasn't the end. We drove to Sophia's office. The war room was alive with low whispers and frantic typing. Around us, the forensic accountant and two sharp attorneys sorted mountains of evidence. Vincent paced, eyes sharp, phone in hand, waiting for the board meeting to start. The clock was ticking. Alex had lined up his own meeting with the Mexican investors at 3 p.m., a desperate bid to seal his betrayal. He planned to present them with a finished deal, assets drained and control stolen. We had to act first. The board's vote had to come before Alex's final move. Not too soon to alert him, not too late to lose control. Every detail mattered. Leah sifted through pages of proof, bank transfers totaling $4.7 million funneled to offshore shell companies, photos of Alex and Gabriella slipping into a luxury penthouse bought with company funds, emails between Alex and Miguel, plotting this scheme for over a year. Worse, Leah learned Alex's sabotage began long before she suspected, whispered rumors planted in boardrooms, poisoned confidence in her leadership, all laying the groundwork to make her the scapegoat. His betrayal wasn't a moment. It was a slow, ruthless unraveling. One of the attorneys pointed to a timeline. If you hadn't overheard that call, he would have succeeded. Leah's heart cracked open. Every anniversary, every birthday, even those stolen weekends were lies piled on lies. How could someone so close cut this deep? How could she have trusted him? But Leah wasn't broken. Not yet. As the rain outside softened, her resolve hardened. This wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming herself, exposing the truth, taking back control. She stared at the mug again, cold and cracked like the story she was rewriting. Alex Rivera's game was over. Leah's fight was just beginning. The click of Alex Rivera's laptop late at night still haunts Leah Morgan. The sharp tapping of keys echoed through their Brooklyn Tech District apartment, cutting through the silence. She remembers the glow of the screen on his face. Intense, controlled. the faint scent of his cologne mixed with spilled red wine staining scattered receipts on the marble counter. Those late hours had felt ordinary, even intimate. But now, that memory tastes bitter. Every note of his typing pulsed with something darker, a crack in the trust she'd built around their tech-driven lives. Why didn't she see it sooner? Was it just business? Or something more? At 1:30, armed with every piece of proof, we headed to TechVista's offices. Vincent had us slip in through a side door, away from prying eyes. In a cramped conference room beside the main boardroom, we waited. Through the thin walls, Alex and Miguel's voices floated, entitled, confident, plotting. They talked growth strategies and market expansion like the future was theirs to command. Unaware, they were about to be exposed. At exactly 2 Uchiru, Janet Wilson, our ally on the board, opened the meeting. Alex launched into his pitch: Latin American markets, strategic partnerships, and a slick financial restructuring plan. As he hit the key part about draining company assets, Janet interrupted. Before we continue, I believe some additional attendees need to join us. Our moment. Vincent pushed open the connecting door. I stepped inside. Alex froze. Shock, confusion, flickers of fear flashing across his face. "Leah," he stammered. "What are you doing here? Wasn't your flight?" I smiled, calm and sharp. I placed my portfolio firmly on the table. "This meeting matters more than Paris. Please, continue. I'm very interested in that financial restructuring you were just about to explain." Miguel's face went pale. His eyes flicked between Alex and me, calculating what I knew, how much power I had gained. The room held its breath. The game was over. But my fight? It was just beginning. Light filtered through frosted glass, slicing the boardroom into sterile fragments. Leah's memory flared, a sharp tang of espresso, Alex's laughter circling her like smoke, his hand brushing hers in a gesture meant only for allies. Months ago, she stood at this same table, trusting him. The air tasted different now, metallic and thin, dread humming in her bones as she replayed his secret texts. Betrayal had a scent, cold cologne, the faint sting of recent rain. How had she missed the signs? Was it just business, or something darker? Carlos, or rather Alex, tried to regain control. His voice dipped into that smooth, condescending tone. "Leah, this is a complex strategic discussion. We can catch you up later. Maybe rest, after your canceled flight." Janet cut him off, steady and clear. "Actually, Alex, Leah requested this emergency meeting. Serious concerns about company finances and leadership. As chairperson, I approved it." Alex's gaze darted around the room, frustration dawning. "What's this about? If there are concerns, I should have been notified. Like how I found out about the $3 million transfer to Meridian Holdings in Panama." Her voice calm but fueled by adrenaline. "Or the plan to devalue my shares while I was supposedly in Paris." The color drained from Alex's face. Miguel, his co-conspirator, gathered papers, ready to bail. "This is personal. Maybe we should reschedule the business talk." Sophia, her lawyer, cut through cold and sharp. "Sit down, Mr. Fuentes. Your involvement is documented. Leaving now could look like guilt." Miguel sank back, exchanging panicked looks with Alex. Around the table, board members shifted, confusion and concern written across their faces. Leah opened her portfolio, sliding documents like cards of truth across the table. "What you see is evidence of a systematic scheme to siphon TechVista's assets, move intellectual property to shell companies, all planned to leave TechVista hollow and pin the blame on me." For 45 minutes, she laid out every detail with surgical precision, her voice steady, her mind sharp, trained by years as a startup strategist. The forensic accountant backed her up, exposing suspicious transactions with cold, hard facts. Every figure, every paper was a brick in the fortress Leah was building, one to reclaim stability expose the fraud, and take back what was hers. The room hung on her every word. Could Alex fight back? Or was his empire crumbling beneath the weight of his own lies? As the meeting ended, Leah felt a new fire ignite. This wasn't just about tech or money. It was about trust, identity, and finally standing tall in a world that tried to keep her quiet. What happens next? Leah knows she's only just begun. A cold tension settled over the room as Vincent laid out the new operational changes, each designed to push me completely out of the loop. My heart pounded as Sophia detailed the legal nightmare. Documents forged with my signature, a trap set to ruin me. Carlos kept trying to interrupt, his voice desperate, fumbling for excuses. This is all just a misunderstanding. Preliminary talks. Temporary tax measures. But the evidence? It didn't lie. I played the recording. It crackled through the speaker, Carlos and Miguel's voices plotting how they'd frame me for financial misconduct. The final defense crumbled before us. The private investigator had risked everything, bringing proof from inside Miguel's own circle, a conscience refusing to stay silent. Janet's voice cut through the tension. I think we've heard enough. Her gavel dropped. I call an immediate vote to suspend Alex Rivera as CEO, pending a full investigation. Unanimous. Carlos abstained himself. Security arrived quickly, escorting Carlos and Miguel out. As they passed me, Carlos's eyes burned with blame and fury. You set me up. Planned this from the start. I met his glare without flinching. No, Carlos, I just learned from the best. You taught me everything about betrayal. With them gone, the board looked at me, Leah Morgan, as interim CEO, Vincent stepping in as COO with more power. We moved fast, freezing suspicious accounts, locking down assets. Crisis mode. A press release was drafted to calm the market once the news went public. But the true shock was yet to come. A sudden chill cut through the boardroom when Sophia handed me a sealed folder, marked Taylor Family Trust. Eyes shifted, curiosity sharp as knives. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside wasn't just proof of Carlos's fraud. There was an encrypted ledger, and it wasn't Carlos leading the scheme. Vincent, the man I thought was an ally, the mastermind behind it all. The room blurred. The harsh fluorescent lights became blinding as disbelief swallowed me whole. The hum of a laptop stuttered like a heartbeat skipping under strain. Could I trust anyone? The gasp that escaped me echoed in every stunned face. Loyalty, partnership, reality, unraveled in a single page. The stakes had shifted again. This wasn't just about money or deception anymore. This was about survival. Could I outsmart a plot that cut deeper than I ever imagined? What if the real battle was not only for the company, but for the truth buried beneath decades of lies? Leah Morgan wasn't just fighting to reclaim stability. She was uncovering a web where trust and betrayal wove tighter than she knew. The clock was ticking. The next move could change everything. A sharp ping cut through the midnight silence. My phone screen lit up, an encrypted message from Alex Rivera. But this wasn't his usual code. The message glowed with a list of offshore accounts I never knew existed. Then the words froze me. If you're seeing this, it's already started. My breath caught. The photographs in the living room suddenly seemed less like memories and more like puzzle pieces in a game I never agreed to play. Every object I touched hummed with hidden meaning, as if the entire house was a labyrinth rigged with traps, and I was just beginning to navigate alone. The rain outside tapped softly against the window, carrying the scent of damp earth and unsettled secrets. Was this warning a trap? Or my only lifeline? Alone in the vast silence of our once shared home, I realized trust was a currency Alex had drained dry. But I wasn't broken. I wasn't done. The night had already stripped away my illusions. Now it challenged me to rise, to move fast, to reclaim control of everything Alex tried to steal. Days earlier, the boardroom had been a battlefield. I stood firm when the vote to suspend Alex passed unanimously. His glare sliced through me, charged with hate, tangled with fear. "You set me up," he spat, but I met his rage with cold clarity. "No, Alex, I'm just playing by your own rules now." Security took him out, and just when the dust seemed to settle, Sophia handed me a sealed folder, marked Taylor Family Trust. Inside, a digital ledger, encrypted but cracked open by my team, revealed the true puppeteer. Vincent, the one I trusted most. A co-founder turned traitor. The harsh office lights blurred like a storm behind my eyes. Was anyone untouchable? Loyalty was a fragile myth. I faced down the truth. I had to, because survival wasn't optional. Not in this fight. Not when so much was on the line. The following evening, exhaustion pressed heavy. I walked through our Soho apartment, now more museum than home. Photos of us smiled back, frozen in better days, but the warmth had drained. As I packed Alex's things, each item was a ghost. The watch I gave him, the sweater from our Napa trip, the cufflinks he never wore, it all whispered betrayals and broken promises. When I finally sank to the floor, I didn't let the pain swallow me whole. Instead, I felt the sharp pulse of pride. In less than a week, I'd turned the tide, saved thousands of jobs, protected the startup's future, outmaneuvered a man who saw me as nothing more than a shadow behind his empire. My name was Leah Morgan, and I was no pawn. As dawn painted Brooklyn in pale gold, I stepped into the unknown. CEO of TechVista, a startup strategist entrusted with rebuilding trust, not just in the company, but in myself. Legal battles loomed. Company wounds needed mending. Leadership had to be reclaimed. But one thing was clear. The game had changed. And so had I. A hush fell over the crowd as Leah Morgan stepped onto the stage. In her hand, she gripped an encrypted USB drive. A tiny, weighty symbol of secrets wrested from chaos. The air was thick with tension, the faint scent of rain drifting through the open windows, mixing with the rustle of restless footsteps. Conversations buzzed just beneath the surface, fractured whispers bouncing off Soho's exposed brick walls. Then, piercing the murmur, came a sharp notification tone. Leah didn't hesitate. She connected the drive, and the room dimmed as a video began to play. There, on the screen, was Alex Rivera, charismatic but cold, mid-negotiation with his sly accomplice Miguel, trading rapid-fire Spanglish deals. The revelation hit like a jolt. Gasps echoed. Eyes widened. Internal alliances suddenly dissolved in real time. Leah's gaze didn't waver. The truth detonated across the room, slicing through layers of deception. Loyalties unraveled. Futures shifted. Every plan rewritten. Every trust fractured. This was the moment Leah had been preparing for, the turning point in a battle that had stripped away illusions and forced raw resolve. The weeks before had been brutal. After uncovering Alex's plot to ship her to Paris and dismantle what they built, Leah found herself grappling with betrayal and financial deception so deep it threatened to swallow TechVista whole. But instead of breaking, she flipped the script. She outmaneuvered Alex and his schemes, securing company assets, rallying clients, and working covertly with law enforcement targeting Alex and Miguel's criminal web. The nights blurred into days. Coffee and adrenaline replaced sleep as Leah transformed from victim to warrior. On the morning of the assembly, Leah felt the weight of every eye in the room. Her people needed more than answers. They needed hope. As employees filtered in, their worried faces ghosted by rumors and uncertainty, Leah took the stage surrounded by Vincent and the lean executive team still loyal to TechVista's future. She opened with steady resolve. Today isn't just about change. It's about trust. Trust we will rebuild together. The room breathed in her words. It was more than a statement. It was a promise. Just then, a message arrived. Alex, never one to surrender, demanded a meeting with legal teams. Leah smirked to herself. "We'll meet," she said quietly, "but on our terms." Leah's journey was far from over. Battles awaited in courtrooms and boardrooms alike, but for the first time she stood unshaken, independent, resilient, brave. The woman who'd been underestimated was now unbreakable. Could anyone truly know the cost of reclaiming power? The smell of rain outside promised cleansing, but inside, a storm was just beginning to rage. Leah stepped up to the mic as the room settled into a tense hush. "Good morning," she began, voice steady despite the tight knot in her chest. "Thank you all for coming today." Her gaze swept over the team, faces shadowed with uncertainty, flickers of hope barely holding ground. "I know there's been a lot of questions about leadership changes. You deserve honest answers." Her words filled the silence, clear and measured. She laid out the truth: financial misconduct uncovered, decisive action taken by the board, and her appointment as interim CEO to steer TechVista through the storm. "Your jobs are safe," she assured them, watching relief slowly soften anxious eyes. She painted a picture of stability: strong finances, loyal clients, industry-leading innovation. This crisis was more than chaos. It was a call to reunite around the company's core values: integrity and resilience. As she opened the floor to questions, Leah handled every concern with calm transparency. When asked about Alex's whereabouts, she didn't flinch. "He's no longer with us. Legal action is ongoing." By the end, the crowd's mood shifted. Tight shoulders relaxed, cautious hope ignited. Leah felt a quiet fire growing among them as they filed out, ready to fight for TechVista's future. The next morning, flanked by the crisp scent of fresh coffee and the subtle rustle of papers, Leah sat waiting in Sophia's office. The door swung open sharply at 9. Alex and his lawyer appeared, slick suits and cool confidence masking the storm beneath. The battle wasn't over. It had just taken a deadlier turn. Leah paused, her eyes locked with Alex's from across the room, his glare unreadable. The tension was thick, almost electric. Every heartbeat thundered in her ears. Would this confrontation tear apart the fragile trust she'd fought so hard to rebuild? Or would she finally expose the full truth and reclaim what was rightfully hers? The storm was far from over. The conference room pulsed with tension. Alex's knuckles whitened around his untouched coffee. Sophia's fingers hovered over her iPad, ready. The attorneys shifted in their sleek chairs. My last words hung heavy in the silence. Outside, the city buzzed, cars honking, tires splashing puddles. Inside, the air felt thick, electric. I met Alex's gaze. A challenge. "These allegations aren't just rumors," I said, voice steady. "We have proof, recorded conversations, forged documents, falsified approvals. It all points to one thing: financial betrayal." He didn't flinch. Not yet. But the room waited. Every breath sharp, every second stretched thin. What will Alex do now that the walls are closing in? Will he finally crack, or fight back harder? Alex barely looked at me as they entered the conference room. Sophia, our forensic accountant, sat with 2 attorneys from her firm. I took the head seat. Alex's jaw tightened. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting," his lawyer began smoothly. "My client insists these accusations come from serious misunderstandings. We have documents explaining each transaction." He slid a thick folder across the table. Sophia grabbed it first, skimming through before passing it to me. Inside were elaborate explanations, each suspicious expense disguised as part of our Latin American push. "Creative," I said, closing it. "But they contradict recorded calls between Alex and Miguel Fuentes discussing asset transfers to avoid detection. You called the company a worthless shell." Alex leaned forward, abandoning calm. "Those recordings are taken out of context. This is corporate espionage plus invasion of privacy." Sophia shot back. "The recordings are legal. The context is clear. especially with forged signatures and fake board approvals under Eden's name. For 2 hours, the room warped into a battlefield. Alex and his lawyer launched desperate defenses, twisting facts, dodging truths. I watched Alex with cold detachment. The man I once trusted was now a stranger, his ambition and deceit raw, exposed. Then his lawyer whispered for a private conference. The silence stretched. Time froze. What happens next could change everything. Leah's mind snapped back as Alex's words cut through the tension. The air in Tech Vista's conference room buzzed with electric energy, espresso aromas weaving through the sharp scent of contract paper. The hum of servers drifted faintly through the glass walls. Alex's hand had rested on her shoulder once, warm and almost reassuring. She still felt the cold weight of his wedding band, the symbol of a security she once believed was unbreakable. Now, that same hand was clenched tight, a fist stripped of its comfort. How did trust twist into something so brittle, so fragile, almost overnight? The memory faded, and Leah met Alex's cold stare. "These aren't just rumors," she said, voice steady but sharp. "We have the recordings, the forged signatures, the fake approvals. You've been hiding it all." Silence swallowed the room. Would he break, or come back harder? They returned, their stance different now, something calculated behind the anger. "My client is ready to settle," Alex's lawyer began. "Alex will give up his claims to Tech Vista for a financial package and mutual silence." Leah exchanged a look with Sophia, their forensic ace. They'd prepared for this. No way they'd back down now. "Not interested," Sophia said flatly. "The board is cooperating with law enforcement on fraud, money laundering, identity theft. This won't be swept under any deal." Alex's expression darkened. "You're making a mistake, Leah. Tech Vista doesn't run without me. Investors trust me. Clients come for my connections." His voice dropped, finally speaking straight to her. That was the moment Leah held his gaze without blinking. Maybe once. But times change. The board believes in my leadership. Clients and investors want someone who doesn't steal from the company. He stood, fury spilling into a final threat. "This isn't over. You have no idea what you're up against." She leaned back, calm as ever, the armor she'd forged from countless betrayals. "Actually, I do. I'm facing a man who underestimated his wife so much. He didn't even know she speaks Spanish. Who thought she'd quietly disappear while he robbed everything she built? That's not a scary opponent." With that, Alex stormed out. His lawyer trailed behind, whispering apologies. The door clicked shut. Leah exhaled, tension pouring out with her breath. "You handled that perfectly," Sophia said, squeezing her shoulder. "He came to intimidate, and you flipped the script." In the weeks that followed, legal battles cascaded like a storm. But Leah was ready to reclaim her life, expose the fraud, and rise. No one who bet against her understood just how resourceful and resilient she was. The fight wasn't just for Tech Vista. It was for her future, for justice. Could she take down a man so cunning? Or would his ambition outpace her determination? Leah's story was far from over, and every move mattered. Criminal charges hit Alex and his right-hand man, Miguel. Wire fraud, money laundering, conspiracy. Even Gabriella got caught up, charged as an accessory. Civil suits piled on, clawing back every dollar lost. Immigration agents stepped in, the international threads unraveling faster than anyone expected. Amid it all, I dove headfirst into Tech Vista's chaos. Rebuilding wasn't just a buzzword. It was survival. I rolled out tight new financial controls, slamming shut every loophole. Took meetings with our biggest clients, feeling the weight of their doubt but refusing to let it break me. Months passed. The board saw the change, not the casual fixer, but a leader. 3 months after that heated showdown, they lifted the interim from my CEO title. Official. Real. No more shadows, no more second-guessing. We toasted quietly in our Soho office, no glamorous flashbacks to Alex's wild parties, just us, real, focused. I caught my reflection in the window, San Francisco skyline stretching beyond, and barely recognized the woman staring back. Stronger, sharper, free from the need to prove herself to anyone but herself. Alex tried to bury me. Instead, he uncovered a side of me I never knew existed. Resilient, fierce, unstoppable. The final act came 6 months later. Alex's plea deal finally put an end to the mess. The courtroom felt cold, sterile. He sat in the standard-issue jumpsuit that stripped away that easy charm he flaunted. When it was his time to speak, he looked right at me, voice low but clear. "I underestimated you." The judge's sentence, 8 years locked away. As Alex was escorted out, our eyes met one last time. That look said so much. But just as I let out a breath, raising my glass in a quiet toast to what I'd reclaimed, my gaze caught movement beyond the glass. Shadows shifting in the skyline like silent signals. Was this really over? Or was Alex's game far from finished? What was lurking in those dark corners waiting to strike next? The fight for Tech Vista, for my future, had only just begun. Late at night, Leah Morgan sits alone in her glass-walled office. The city's neon glow dances across her face as she scrolls through the final audit. Outside, a breeze stirs, carrying the faint scent of rain and rustling leaves against the window. Her phone buzzes sharply. A message appears. It's simple, cryptic. "You're not done yet." The quiet of the room thickens. Her fingers hover mid-air, frozen above the keyboard. Could Alex Rivera have hidden something deeper? A secret far more dangerous than anyone dared imagine? Leah's eyes narrow. The glow of hard-won victory flickers. Hope wavers under the weight of uncertainty. What's next? And more importantly, how far is she willing to go to uncover the truth? The silence waits, waiting for her move. The courtroom was cold and unyielding. No love lingered between Leah and Alex. Nothing but a sharp, reluctant respect in his gaze, the look of a man beaten at his own game. Outside, the flash of cameras lit the crowd. Reporters shouted questions, hungry for sound bites about Tech Vista's future. Leah answered with calm clarity. The company is stronger, transparent, ready for what comes next. A voice pierced the commotion. "Any message for your ex-husband?" She paused, the weight of the question settling. Then, quietly, "Thank you for the lessons." Walking away from the courthouse, the heavy burden of the past lifted from her shoulders. Alex was paying for his betrayal. Tech Vista wasn't just recovering. It was thriving under Leah's leadership, stronger because she refused to break. Freedom tasted like cold air on a brisk morning, sharp and clean. 1 year later, the company's valuation soared past $70 million. New offices opened in Toronto and London. Big-name clients lined the roster. But the path wasn't easy. When Alex fell, critics swooped in, vultures circling, investors wavered, competitors tried to poach what was left. Leah faced grueling 16-hour days, nights spent returning to an empty home, her body and mind pushed to their limits. There were moments, so many, when she wondered if the fight was worth every sleepless second. But Leah Morgan isn't the type to quit. Her sharp mind cut through the chaos. She rebuilt not just a company, but her life, layer by layer, plan by plan. The scars Alex left behind became her fuel. Resilience became her weapon, and every challenge only sharpened her resolve. The question now isn't if Leah will succeed, it's what she'll do next. Because in the heart of Brooklyn Tech District, the game has changed. The shadows are longer, and victory? It's just the beginning. The sensation of cool marble under Leah's bare feet hit her, sharp and sudden. The echo of laughter, hers and Alex's, drifted from the sunlit kitchen. The crisp scent of espresso spilled through her memory like a wave. Every flashback hit with painful clarity. Colors brighter, sounds louder, moments frozen in time. Moments where trust wasn't just fragile, it was shattered. How could someone she loved betray every unspoken promise? The walls held secrets now. Silence filled the empty spaces they once shared. Leah's mind replayed those mornings, the warmth between them fading into cold suspicion. Could she have seen the cracks before they became chasms? The rain tapped gently against the window, a mournful soundtrack to her thoughts. Divorce wasn't just paper and signatures. It was every stolen breath in a meeting, every forced pause to hold back tears alone in her office. Alex's arrest made the process cleaner, a clear line between the past and the future. The court didn't hesitate. His acts weren't just lies. They were a betrayal on legal and personal fronts. Leah held the house, the company's shares, but the home was too big, too haunted. 6 months later, she said goodbye to the old life. Selling the Soho townhouse wasn't just a move, it was a choice. Downsizing, picking what memories deserved space, what she was ready to let fade. Each donation, each thrown-away photo was freedom, a thread cut in a web tangled with deception. Healing was messy, non-linear. Early mornings brought clarity. Nights, anger that clawed awake at 3 a.m. Grief for dreams that never made it past the planning stage. Shame that whispered, "Why didn't you see it?" Therapy taught her otherwise. Shame wasn't hers to carry. Then, unexpectedly, forgiveness appeared. Not for Alex, for Leah. Holding on to hate would have drained every watt of power she had. Forgiveness wasn't forgetting or excusing. It was drawing a line, a border between her broken past and an unbreakable future. Her circle tightened. Sophia, Vincent, Lisa, steady anchors in a storm of doubt, bonds that deepened beyond surface-level support. Together, they reminded Leah she wasn't alone. Not anymore. Every scar carved by Alex's betrayal became a mark of resilience. Each challenge, a fuel cell powering her comeback. Leah didn't just survive. She built a fortress of strength, intelligence, and unshakable resolve. Because sometimes the hardest battles lead to the fiercest victories. And this was only the beginning. Even during my darkest moments, our shared battle against Carlos' scheme created bonds that transcended ordinary friendship, forging connections based on absolute trust and mutual respect. I also discovered a passion for helping other women who had experienced similar betrayals. 6 months ago, I established the Financial Empowerment Foundation, providing resources and legal assistance to women whose partners had used financial manipulation as a form of control or abuse. The foundation has already helped 27 women reclaim their financial independence and rebuild their lives. My personal life has slowly blossomed again, though not in ways I would have anticipated. I began dating John, a literature professor I met at a charity event 8 months ago. Our relationship progresses cautiously with an honesty and transparency that feels both foreign and essential after my experience with Carlos. John understands my hesitation to fully trust again and respects the boundaries I have established as we get to know each other. The most profound change, however, has been internal. The woman who once derived her sense of value partly from her successful marriage has been replaced by someone who recognizes her intrinsic worth. I no longer need external validation to feel complete or capable. The crucible of betrayal burned away that dependency, leaving behind a core of self-reliance I never knew existed. TechVista itself has undergone a transformation that mirrors my personal journey. We implemented unprecedented levels of financial transparency with regular independent audits and clear reporting structures. Our corporate culture emphasizes ethical business practices above all else, with whistleblower protections and open communication channels at every level of the organization. Carlos himself remains in federal prison serving his 8-year sentence. I received one letter from him about 6 months ago full of justifications thinly disguised as apologies. I did not respond. Some stories don't deserve a closing line. Some truths, a final word. His version of events, it doesn't matter anymore. Last week, I stepped onto the stage at the Women in Tech Summit. Hundreds of eyes locked on me, eager. The air was thick with anticipation, the faint scent of coffee spilling from nearby tables mixed with the subtle buzz of whispered conversations. Standing there, I felt something shift inside. What once threatened to break me had turned into a well of strength I could share. I told them about rebuilding a company after betrayal. Not just strategy or numbers, but the raw truth. Our darkest moments expose our hidden power. When everything I trusted crumbled, I found grit I never knew I had. I learned to trust my gut, demand transparency, and understand real security comes from knowing you can stand alone, even when others fail you. Alex Rivera thought he had won. Instead, he handed me a chance to find myself without him. That truth, it's untouchable. The crowd rose, their applause a wave of energy, but then came the moments after. Women stepping forward, sharing scars and courage. Together, we had forged a language for healing. Looking ahead, I don't fear the unknown anymore. I survived the storm, not just whole, but sharpened, ready to write my story my way. And then I paused. The room held its breath. The lights dimmed just enough to blur the line between cheers and silence. My hand gripped the podium tight. Steady voice, but eyes flickered with a flash of doubt. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. The truth isn't out yet. Who still holds a secret? The crowd waited, and so did I. That night I caught a conversation in Spanish, words that sparked a chain reaction I never saw coming. It wasn't a path I'd have chosen. Pain, betrayal, rebuilding from the ground up. But somehow, it led me to truth, to a raw, undeniable version of myself I never knew existed. Alex Rivera's betrayal was sharp, but in trying to strip me of power, he unlocked a strength I didn't know I had. He tried to leave me with nothing. Instead, he handed me freedom. Freedom to rebuild everything. But this time, on my terms. Have you ever been crushed by betrayal, only to rise stronger? Felt like everything was lost, and then found something deeper inside? I want to know your story. When your world shakes, what keeps you standing? Thank you for hearing me out. Remember, sometimes the darkest nights reveal the strongest light. This is Leah, reminding you to own your story and hold your power tight. Until next time.